to another wonderful episode of Creationship Goals, my favorite title in the world because I made it up. Today we have with David Dion the incredibly fabulous, handsome, beautiful hair, Mr. Luke Charles Stafford. How are you?
I'm great, guys. That's a great title too, by the way, Creationship Goals. I asked these guys, so is Creationship Goals the name of the podcast or the episode? And they go, yes.
No, we don't know what the episode is going to be called. Usually I've been titling the episodes like 3 things that are the highlight of each of the topics that we talk about. And we really want to dive into some heavy things with you because, Luke, you got such a great story of where you are, what you've overcome, what you've experienced. And one of those just getting right into it, one of those big things that we really wanted to talk about was failure and the importance of failure as an artist. Real quick for me, failure is honestly becoming one of my favorite things. I absolutely love everything that failure teaches me. I love everything that I've learned from failure. I love that it has sculpted me almost more than anything in the world just as an artist because I've fallen hard a lot and have hit rock bottom. And I just wanted to know real quick, just real briefly what failure means to you. Actually, before we do that, I'd like you to introduce yourself. I got right into it. Yeah, real quick, introduce yourself, and then we'll get into that topic.
Yeah. Well, Josh, thanks, brother. He's right. My name's Lukas Charles Stafford. I live here in Los Angeles, born and bred in Indianapolis, Indiana, small town, Anderson, Indiana. Currently, I act and sing full time and own a life coaching business called FMP, or Find My Purpose Life Coaching. But Josh is right. There have been some really key failures in my life. So to just answer your question directly, man, failure is much more potent. It's a potency versus success. Success is without failures. Well, what do those mean? We don't hope in the things that we have. We hope in the things that we don't have. So failure is the greatest tool, the greatest agent to really learn what it means to matter. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I can be as emphatic as I want, but in my experiences, my failures didn't just teach me how to do my craft better, or how to approach a logistic with my schedule, or how to approach a lifted palette or a monologue. It wasn't about that. It taught me a greater sense of who I am as a man, as a person, and it taught me, each one gave me a much better lesson on, well, what the hell do I care about? Who do I want to be? What do I want to stand for? Because at the end of the day, if we're going to suffer, we might as well suffer for what's worth suffering for. You're going to suffer no matter what, whatever you do. If you're an English teacher in Iowa, I would support you. I would paint my chest and be the first one to root you on. But if you are going to suffer no matter what you do, you might as well do it for what's worthwhile. And I can tell you that failure has taught me, I say potency, because it's potent purpose. It teaches me, what do I want to do and why is it bigger than me? And that thing, I'll wrap, I can go on forever. That thought, I would say, has also taught me that it's not, have you ever tried to push a rock up a hill or something like that? Purpose is a type of energy that pulls you up the hill, as opposed to you pushing so hard. And failure has taught me who that is and what do I stand for. I hope that makes sense.
That's great. That makes perfect sense.
So a lot of people say, like, when you want to be when you want to have a good life, you just need to be lucky. You need to have the good moments that are just on someone's doorstep, and someone's like, they don't have that, and you just don't have failures at all. You're just lucky. You have the right contacts, the right people. What do you think of that?
I think that there's a difference between luck and faith. Um,
Mm,
Faith is saying, well, I believe and I have hope. So I'm going to move forward anyway, even though
mhm,
this sucks. I'm going to move forward anyway.
mhm,
Um, Luck, I really believe, is the truth behind that is that's really just faith coming to reality. Your greatest resource is
mm,
your relationships. So everything that comes to you is going to come through a person.
mhm,
So you might as well learn to relate
mm,
to yourself before you do anything else, because it's really important that we have buzzwords nowadays like authenticity, and really the message
mhm,
behind that, we can over sexualize that a bit, but the point behind that and why it's so popular is, in a world of fake, how can you cut through the noise and be true? And so when you say luck, I think
mhm,
when it comes to success and the moments where my failures have turned to success in my life, luck was really faith.
mhm,
Um, it
mm,
it was so really, if I had to be blunt and put this on a cliff note, I really think it's not luck. I don't think there's really a such thing as luck.
mhm,
I think it's character and craft. If you can focus on your character and let God worry
mm,
about your reputation, you're going to be free, and you're going to stop trying to prove yourself to other people through your craft, or and this is a good one. This is a whole other podcast, or the craft you think that other people want you to do. Now, I did that for years
mm.
and didn't figure that one out till my mid
Mhm.
20s. Um, so, anyway, I hope that answers your question.
I
Yeah, yeah, it does. I think it's a good foundation when we talk about things like failure. It's just, when you do transition out of that, like where does that come from? And I think it's just a real big foundation question when we talk about
Yeah,
the
man.
rest. Um, you know, um, because otherwise we can listen to this in the wrong daylight. And I think it's just really important to have that mindset. That's
Yeah,
great.
I really like what you said about feeling like you have to prove something when you're not living in purpose. You really are fighting to have your identity found in what you do. And I know I'm so guilty of that. I know I'm so guilty of pushing that
Mm,
rock uphill just to show people that I am enough. Um,
yep,
mm,
there's almost a selfish side of me that wants to um, prove to like people I went to high school with or you just grew up with, to show them like now that kid that didn't really know who he was now is secure in himself and is living out his best life and wants to show you that he's better than that, wants to show you
mm,
that
yep,
he's more than that, but really that's that doesn't really get you anywhere. And that's just speaking from my experience, but talk
yeah,
a little bit about like trying to prove yourself. Talk a little bit about like that chase that
yeah,
I personally know doesn't really go anywhere.
yeah. Oh, there's so many examples. Well, when I was in middle school, I was overweight. I was bulimic at one point. I lost a bunch of weight, and then in the summer, I lost about 60 pounds going into high school, and that turned into bulimia
mm,
because before that, I had one of those stories. Personally, I was bullied and picked on for my weight, and on top of that, to throw in a little extra sauce, I knew that I had deep desires to act, to sing, to play multiple instruments, to kind of renaissance it up, so to speak. And I had great friends who were phenomenal singers. And I auditioned for my first musical and got a little role. And my first time to sing in front of everybody came up, and it was kind of like, oh, Lukas singing. And I was, this is sixth grade. And I come up to the
mhm,
line. I'm so nervous. I'm so nervous. Still at this point, chunky, overweight. and I just yelled the notes. I was so nervous, I yelled. Well, that turned into, I was encouraged after that to not sing. I was told not to do any of those things, and specifically, I was told that I was tone deaf. Um, and years later, I found myself on Broadway singing. So,
Mm.
but that did some
Mhm.
serious damage to go from that moment, middle school, to 23. That was 10 years later, right? So I set out on a massive journey after that. That's what led to the bulimia. That's what led to the weight
Mhm.
loss. I started playing the saxophone because I heard it was the closest instrument to the human voice, and I had a natural knack for that. I never practiced unless I needed to. But really, I played, ironically, the way that I would sing. I just poured. It was like tofu instead of steak for me. Love it, but it just wasn't quite the thing. And it wasn't till I actually got to Broadway and sang on my first show, I couldn't tell what was going on. All these years of damage, all these years of trying to prove myself to that moment, to the weight loss. By the way, I gained all that weight back, met God, and redid it all. And then I started fitness training a couple years later, and I've maintained a good weight and a good physique and good health for about 10 years after learning what it means to take care of my body from a place of appreciation before there's a six pack. Because then it's not about the six pack
Hmm.
anymore. The six pack is a byproduct. Anyway, that's a whole other podcast. We'll do a fitness one.
Yeah.
So, anywho, um, but yeah. So, and in many ways, that was a just a narrative of those things mixed in that led me to set out. I had to prove it. And to wrap that story up, I walked off stage after my first show singing, and I had this crazy dream that night, and I bawled my eyes out. I couldn't figure out what it was. Like, why am I so emotional about this? Because I realized that when I sang in that show, it wasn't for anyone. There was something about it that was inspired me, and all I wanted was for that to inspire the people. So it became less egotistic. It became less narcissistic. It became more rooted in truth, and thus began my journey going into full-time acting and singing after that. So
Mm.
anyway, hope that gives you a good example.
Yeah. That's powerful. It it's funny we can reach the top and finally achieve that dream. We can finally get
Yeah,
everything that we wanted and realize it's empty and worthless. Uh
yeah,
because it ultimately doesn't mean anything. It's not who we are. We put all of our identity into this thing, and when we get it and we have it, then we have nothing after that. I
yeah,
we
100%.
chase after these things, and for some reason we want it so bad. We want to prove something so bad. We want to prove that we're enough, and we are fueled by all of these emotions from our past. Um, what is the thing that really healed you? And I know we can talk about like the spiritual things that healed you, but
Sure.
maybe just on a more practical level, what is something that really grounded you and healed you and brought you back to reality and put you toward your purpose?
It's a couple things. Um, Number one, have I ever talked to you, Josh, about the difference between happiness and joy? Um, Matthew
Yeah,
McConaughey
yeah.
somewhat talks about this, but he says it really well. And he talks about happiness is fleeting. Happiness is result reliant. Happiness is I mow the lawn and it's cut and it looks good and you think it looks good. Happiness is based upon the opinion of another person. Happiness is based upon I put in my chips, I get my gumball. Joy, though, joy is a different thing. Joy is visceral. Joy is in the doing of the deed. It's in the mowing of the lawn. It's in the writing of the song. It's in the making
Mm-hmm.
of the movie. Not whether the movie is a box office success. If you can seek joy,
Mm-hmm.
then you can start to find out where your purpose usually is. And purpose usually is right underneath a blanket called pain, which leads me to the second point. So seek joy over happiness. And in joy, that's been a very huge practical in my life that I wouldn't have been able to say a few years ago. But how I got there was by going backward and looking at my pain, looking at the things that I cared about if the
Mm-hmm.
lights were off and the camera was off. I love it when I see other people step into their purpose, when I see other people, and if my life inspires them in some way because I grabbed the microphone, because I did that movie, because I made them eggs and steak, which, if you don't know, I love cooking food for people. Come to the house. I'll have some bourbon and some scotch for you. But my point is, pain is it's an awesome opportunity to find purpose and seeing what you care about beyond persona or public opinion. And so that was a humongous practical. So I would encourage you, for anyone who's listening, practically seek joy over happiness and go find joy by looking at your pain and finding your purpose, because it's going to be bigger than you.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that was super easy, super practical, not easy. And it's what's led me to be here and what I do. So when failure comes, as it has many times, it's kind of if your why is bigger than yourself, that is so potent and so powerful, and it'll give you the fuel to get back up.
Mhm.
Mm. Oh. Yeah, I got brought up with the idea of, like, don't find work that you enjoy, but just find the joy in the things that you do. There's difference in that. Um, because in the end, it doesn't matter where we go, you know, or what we in the end really do. It's the joy that we're really focusing on, that we are trying to follow, So even when you never wanted to be a cleaner, but you are having a cleaning job right now, or you are stuck in your home
Yeah,
because you are in quarantine for the sixth time in the same month. It has nothing to do with you being free or not. It has everything to do with you finding joy in the situation you're in. And that's beautiful, because that does make you really look at the pain that you're going through. The things that seem impossible right now, the things that you felt like you wanted but are not there, the things that you feel like you were rejected in. They're all a part of that. And one of the things that I would love to just go deeper in is, your story before you actually, like, in the beginning when you got to Broadway. um, um, because I think that that's a real beautiful, yeah, part of how you're talking about, just being in joy and trusting and having that faith. Yeah, maybe it's something, the story that you can tell for yourself.
sure. Yeah, and I want to say
And
too,
yeah.
like, even if you're listening, you don't know these guys, the courage and the balls that it takes to do a podcast. You don't To do something. There's no guarantee of success. So if you do it anyway, there's a reason why people say starting is half the battle. Dude, being and believing is most of the battle. The fact that y'all are doing this and creating a platform and a place for people to learn creationship, I love that. Uh, I mean, use these guys as an example, and I just think it's super powerful. Um,
Oh, thanks.
so yeah, well, when before Broadway and going into Broadway, going back to some of that, I can say I was a worship leader in Indiana before that, when I was there finishing up college. at a small black church. And let me tell you, I stuck out like a sore thumb. I couldn't have stuck out more. Okay.
Yeah.
But I stuck out big time. And that's where I learned. That's when I first started learning to sing and play piano and do all those kinds of things, even though I was really too afraid to put it all out there, you know. But I learned how to sing runs before I learned how to walk. So I think that I revere that time. Coming out of that period, I was dating a girl at the time, and a church offered me a full-time music pastorship, but I knew that my heart wasn't in pastoring, it was in pop, pop culture. But I was way too shy and insecure to admit that it was acting, singing, songwriting, uh, life coaching, production. There's a long list of things. It was just it felt like conceit. So I hid it all inside. But the time came to make a choice. I was coming out of college, and my parents moved. I was 23, and I knew if I'm going to move and give something, if I'm going to shoot a shot, it's now or never. I'm in my early 20s. It's time, right? And something in me, and this is what I wanted to get to. I think this is really, really powerful. Something in me felt like it was going to die, and I would be the one to kill it. Something inside of me, at the time, it was purpose. I didn't really know, but if I did not shoot my shot, even though at the time I didn't really know what the shot was, but you always kind of know. It's in there, right? Anyway, if you're going to die tomorrow, what would you do with today? Think about that. And so I did, and I lost everything. I lost my relationship, lost my relationships back home, uprooted everything. I was going to go to Nashville. LA was on my heart. Nashville was safer. It was closer to home. Easier, it seemed, to, make a courageous leap. And then an opportunity to house sit in LA came. And I took that opportunity and started a crazy journey. When I got here, I hit the ground running. I was going to churches every Sunday. I was, just every day I was driving to Long Beach and just meeting people. Meanwhile, my finances were fading. And then right before I ran out of finances, this is where that luck thing comes into play. I'm thinking, what? Fear, anguish, pain. The relationship I lost at the time was breaking my heart. My reputation back home seemed to start to be going down the drain. And I was thinking, what am I doing and for what? And then that's when you got to have faith. That turned around. I did all the math. Come November 1, I was working. I was actually touring with a band off and on. I was leading worship at different churches every single Sunday. I was doing it, man. But I couldn't pay rent. It was just starting to stack up. November 1st was going to be when I was going to be completely out of cash, and I was going to have to throw in some kind of white towel. And rolls around, lo and behold, I get a phone call top of October to start a job on Broadway, which at the time was like, what? Starting November 1st. November 1 was the start date. And so I had $15 left. With $15 left, I moved to New York and took that job. And in that job, this is so dramatic, but it's true. I went homeless while I was out there. And while I was homeless, I had that experience singing on stage. And that is how God broke me in half, broke me down, got me out of my comfort zone from what was going to be a cozy worship pastorship, probably a marriage, but a lack of purpose. So don't you think, sweetheart, that you're going to get into this thing and not get hurt. You chase after purpose, and there will be pain along the way. But that pain will be so worth it. It'll be so worth it. It'll feel, embrace the suck. David Goggins talks about that. I can't tell you how there's truth to that, And so that was my journey from leaving Indiana and getting to Broadway. And Broadway was really a time that awoke me to who I truly am. That was a few years ago now.
Oh.
So
Because if to go in that a bit deeper as well, like how was that for you to be, because for a lot of people listening, being on a stage in Broadway, on Broadway is amazing.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean, I'm listening to it and I'm like, holy cow, that's amazing. That's a slight dream. And so, and then saying that, at the same time being homeless, how was that for you? How did you go through that? What was your thought
yeah,
process?
um, it was actually really exciting. I know that sounds almost not true, but it is. I had come so far that I knew I was going to make it. And the show was
Mm,
getting ready to end, and picking up a lease at the time wasn't feasible. There were no places that I could get into, and we only had a few weeks left. So, really, if we're going to break this down, I just want to say my homeless experience was difficult, and the things I'll share were difficult. But there are folks out there right now, as we talk, who've been homeless for 2 years and have a grocery bag and a golf cart or a grocery cart to their name, some less. So I just want to preface that my experience was really difficult. It really was. But there's always more to learn from your experience. And so I just want to honor that to the
mm,
homeless community and
mm,
what we can do to help. Um,
mhm.
the place I was staying,
Wow.
I had some pretty heavy college debt, so I decided to stay with a host. And crisis struck in her world, and with 12 hours notice, I had to move out. It was 12 degrees. And so I started, and to add even more stress, I had two young men who knew me in college who flew out to come see the show. Two guys I mentored to a
Mm,
degree in college, peer mentored. They came to see the show, and they flew in the day that I lost my place. So, um,
mm,
so we jumped from floor to floor. I would sneak into the theater and sleep, um, and use the sink to wash my hair, wash my face, and I would just lie about it. I did not want the cast to know, because at the time I didn't want. It was that same mindset we talked about. Their opinion of me mattered deeply. I didn't want them to think less of me,
mm,
um, and I didn't want them. I didn't want to bring any drama to an opportunity like this. Um, and so
mm,
I was doing that, jumping from floor to floor, and then eventually, the floors only last so long. They left. I would go to the theater, do all that, do the show, sleep on a floor, and then eventually, for about 2 weeks' time, I slept on a bench, um, on the subway, and then I sang my first show. Um, that experience, though, it was like stumbling forward. Every time I needed something, it would always just show up at the last minute, or it would just what I needed, just enough sometimes, you know.
mm,
Um, and eventually, my director, he started getting wind of it, and he's like, "Do I need to be worried about you?" And so, after about 3.5 weeks of this, I got a phone call, and I got offered to house sit a multi-million-dollar penthouse for 2 weeks, and I didn't know. I didn't know at the time. So the show was supposed
mm,
to end. We were losing. The show was going to end early. So I thought, okay, I'll just last these 2 weeks, and that turned into almost 4, like I said. And I'm like, oh crap, I got to figure something out. I need to shave. I smell like a toenail. I mean, it was like that.
Mhm.
Um, and I even snuck into a couple gyms. I would follow people in and sneak into Planet Fitness or something and shower whenever I could.
Mhm.
Um, and I would whatever I could do. Anyway, they call me. They offer me this. I didn't know it was a penthouse, so I go to this suite. I get there, or excuse me. Let's back up one step. I'm on my way there. I get on the F train. I'm trying to save some money because I had used a lot of my money to take care of those two guys that came. If I could go back, this would look so
mm,
different. If I would have just asked for help. See, a performance mindset will also do that to you. A performer's mindset will also scream loneliness, that you can't get help. This could have been a lot easier had I sought out help and known that I was loved and appreciated
Mm.
and not having something to prove. Anyway, and I get on the subway. I have all these bags and luggage. My hair is long. I need a shave. I smell. I throw my bag over the rail, not caring what people think at this point. It hits the ground. It bursts open. All my clothes. It's a broken bag. F train, December
Mm.
like 21st, right around Christmas. And I rush around the corner. My jacket's torn up. And I'm like throwing all this stuff into this bag. And a homeless man comes up to me and he puts his hand on my shoulder and he goes, "It's going to be okay, brother." And he helps me load up my bag and he walks away.
Mm.
I'll never forget
Wow.
that. That someone with less was helping someone with more. So, anyway, I get to the penthouse, don't know it's a penthouse. I walk in, they think, surely this can't be. This can't be him. But my name checks out. They're like looking at me, they give me the key. I get in, and as I'm going up, I realize, oh my gosh, it just keeps going higher. I get off the elevator, I open the door, and my knees just hit the ground, and I start crying because it was overlooking the entire city of Manhattan. And so,
Mm.
and in the middle of the apartment was a piano, and piano is a love language to me. So anyway, that was a little bit of my journey with that.
Wow. That made me emotional. Uh,
Yes,
uh,
thanks.
it's I've heard that story before, and it's such an incredible story of perseverance. There's so many moments where you could have just given up and you kept going. That's really, really commendable. And I
Mm.
understand that. I mean, if I can be a little vulnerable, which I like to, and I haven't really shared enough of my story on this podcast. I've
Yeah.
been going through it. 2020 for me hit extremely hard. Like it did for most people. It was the hardest year of my life, and I'm still kind of going through it.
Mm.
Uh, it just like depression hit it all low, and it just the one the one thing that kept me going was my stubborn persistence to just keep fighting and chasing that thing that you said, that thing that I think will die if I don't keep chasing. And I think that thing is my purpose.
Mm.
And the reason I say that is because I believe it's really pulling me. It's actually pulling me. I'm actually
Mm.
not really pushing for anything.
Mm.
But something something that's just come up in my life personally is something that goes hand in hand with persistence. And
Mm.
this is something I'm working on, and it doesn't come as easy. And I don't think this comes easy to anyone. And that's hard work. I want to talk about
Mm.
hard work. Hard work to get to where you want to be. I mean, there's
Mm.
faith,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there's which I going back to what he said. I also don't believe in luck. I do believe in faith.
Mm.
Um, but I do believe that God and the world both see hard work. I think the people that gave you that house, to some degree, maybe saw hard work. I think the people that you live with see someone that works hard. I think the world sees a hard worker, and personally speaking, that's someone I strive to be. I want to be a hard worker,
Mm.
because I want what I want because it's my purpose.
Mm.
I
Mm.
don't want it to come from arrogance. I think that's something I'm working on. I don't want it to come from a prideful place. It can really easy come from there, but something that frees me from pride is hard work. So talk about your relationship with that, and your what does hard work mean to you?
My grandfather, he's my middle name, Charlie. He used to say, a man's character is defined by what he'll do behind the shadows in his backyard before it's on a stage
Mm.
with a spotlight. And that is so true. Um, I can't emphasize enough how in my own life, it's really the ones who win are the ones who keep getting back up and throw another punch. You know, Rocky had it right when he said it's not how hard you can get hit, it's how hard you can or how hard you can hit. It's how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. I can't tell you how much that's been all over my life. Working hard.
Mm.
One of the first jobs I had was uh, a groundskeeper at a cemetery. Hot summer days, 95 degrees in the middle of Indiana. We had to wear jeans to protect our legs from the
Mm.
machines. Got paid minimum wage for that. But when you spend 8 hours of your day moving heavy rocks, doing landscaping, and digging holes, I often make some jokes like it was a killer job. Definitely wasn't a dead end job. You know, people were dying for that job. Anyway, but it taught me a lot. And so my point with this is there's a narrative across my life of, and the men that I admire are the ones who do that and don't lose their character, don't lose their integrity, don't lose their meekness. Those who don't lose their purpose. Those who men like Dr. King and Abraham
Mhm.
Lincoln,
Mm.
men like my grandfather, men like my favorite superhero is Superman for good reason. He's my
Mm-mm-mm.
favorite because he's the kind of person. What makes him super when his story is told well is that it's who he is without the powers that makes him great. And what he does
Mm.
not do with his power. He has all the power. I admire the guy who's got it, who's worked his butt off to have the craft, but leads with his character. And so working hard, I mean, dude,
Mm.
everything. The projects I'm doing later this year have just been from 3 solid years of working on my voice and working on my craft. Um, Physical fitness.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Once you fix this stuff up here, and once you start engaging this becomes clockwork. But you got to go do the
Mhm.
reps. You know what I mean? Before you date someone, date yourself, baby. Because most people spend their life dating other people. They often seldom date themselves. Know
Mhm.
who you are. Do the reps. Do the hard work. Because ultimately, you don't want anything to rob you of your purpose or steal your soul. What is it to have the
Mhm.
whole world
That's good.
Hmm.
but lose your soul? So don't hesitate to
Mhm.
get your hands dirty. Don't hesitate to get your hands wet. Don't hesitate to get grease on your hands. And as you go along, make sure to set aside ego as you get good.
Mm. Mhm.
Anyway,
Okay,
thanks
then
for coming to my
let
TED.
me ask you that. Yeah, I'll like and subscribe. Uh, what w- for someone if they where does someone start with that? What if someone has the same dream? Like we all do. Hopefully, our audience is people that are creative, that have big dreams. David and I have big dreams. Um,
Mhm.
but like when it comes to hard work, when it comes to facing failure, facing rejection, uh, as we will definitely expect because we have chose a life that's in the spotlight, and that's going to be I know that's going to be a bigger uphill battle than someone who chose
Mhm.
to be a worship leader in Indiana. um for me,
There's nothing wrong
I
with that. If you're a
left
worship
work.
leader in Indiana,
mm,
congratulations.
I Yes,
I
yes,
wasn't waiting for
yes,
that.
Yeah,
thank you, thank you. No,
if that church that I said no
no,
to is listening, I apologize. I hope you found someone.
no, thank you for catching that, actually, because there is a lot of purpose and there is a lot of beauty in choosing that life.
But you're also right.
Um,
It's a different it's a
I,
different type of battle, and it's
it's
heavy,
it's
heavier.
yeah, it's a different heavy burden that
Mm,
comes with a lot of questioning identity and a
Yeah,
lot of
big
the things
time.
that you said. So
Yeah.
where does somebody start? You know, they come here and uh they have no money. They don't know where to work. They don't know what to do. They're figuring out themselves. They can't pay their rent. They have student debt they're paying off. Where where do you start? Like where do you
mm,
start? Because as you said, starting is 50% of the battle. Where do you start
Yeah.
to just go as hard as you can?
Habakkuk talks about vision. Read it, heed it, kind of stuff. Go ahead and decide now what kind of, I'm going to use the words, what kind of man you want to grow up to be. That applies to what kind of person, what kind of woman, what kind of leader, what kind of follower. Go ahead and make that choice now and dig your feet in the sand. And then as vision comes, start moving your feet. Okay? Start moving your feet and stay true to that first choice you
mm,
made. Because if you're, at one point when I was in LA, I was doing touring and I was a paddleboard instructor.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that was before the Broadway thing or any of that other stuff. And hard work comes when you know your value and the values of others. So it starts with vision. It starts with belief before vision. Decide and dig your feet in the sand, and then establish vision. If you could stand for one thing in your life, what would you stand for? If you gave yourself permission, what would you do? If nothing else mattered, what would you do? And then start asking yourself the questions why. Do that work, and then start moving your feet forward. Because the rest of it will start to become more and more clear as you go. You don't have to have the
Yeah.
whole thing figured out from top to bottom. But if you've got a dream inside of you, ask God to show you where's the vision. Dreams are great, visions are greater, and goals are the things that get dreams and visions to reality. Because then faith, see, if you're a believer, you have faith. Faith is in the hope of things unseen. Faith is in the hope of things unseen. So here's what I mean by that. This is where we can really screw this up in the church. And if you know me, I like doing a lot of stuff that's the church, no, that's not in the church, that's out there. Like the worship nights we do, Josh, or stuff like that. It's not in the church building, it's out there. And so what I mean by all this is if it's not the thing, like, so what if I get out there? What if I put everything I have into it? What if I take the first 10 steps and I go, you know what? It's not to sing. Or, you know what? It's not to be an English teacher in Iowa. Or, you know what? It's not. If it's not the thing, it'll be the thing that leads to the thing. Because if you stay true to the thing that you dug your feet in the sand on, step one is decide who you want to be and dig your feet in the sand. The relationships
mm,
that you make along the way, seeking this thing right here, you'll discover somewhere in there, wait a minute, it's not singing, it's producing. See what I just did there?
mm,
But you don't see that back
Mhm.
here. So decide who you want to be because ultimately
mm,
people work with relationships. People work with people that they trust. And then I just want to encourage you too that hard work, work on that craft. Spend endless
mm,
hours, consistent hours, learning, getting lessons, whatever you need to do to work on your craft, whatever that is. Give it everything you got. Throw your whole weight
mm,
at it. Very few people have ever thrown their whole weight at something.
mm,
So anyway, but
Yeah.
and then again, I just want to encourage you before fear starts to take over faith. Faith is more potent. Your belief systems
Mm.
are going to be the things that get you where you're going, and your willingness to turn that into action. Okay? God gives you raw elements. He gives you trees. You turn them to tables and chairs. Where are your raw elements?
Mm.
And start moving your feet.
Mm.
That's great.
That's good. Yeah, I think, to sum that all up, like there is this. It's really easy to feel like, when we believe that something is for us, then it will all fly towards us. Like we don't have to do any effort for it whatsoever. You know, oh, it'll just come to me. No, but it's my calling. I am made to be a musician, so I don't have to do
Mhm.
anything. I will just get a guitar, even. And it's not how that works. I mean, God does give a guitar if you need one in order to do your calling. I do believe that, but at the same time, it's you that needs to play that guitar, and you need to learn the chords. If you want to sing, you need to go on singing
Yeah,
lessons.
man.
And God doesn't give golden throats, to people that don't do anything. He will bless what we do. He will bless what we work on. But for me anyway, in my life anyway, there is this part of like uh, wanting to. I'm a real enthusiastic person. I want to do everything.
Same.
I
I
agree.
am the type of creative person that, like, I make art, I do music. If I ever got to do a role within a movie, I would do it. I would go for anything. And so, there is this part of like also realizing, even in that, like, okay, there is that's something that God gave. That's a part of it, but having
I
focus
was gonna say that. Yeah.
is so important, because and it doesn't even
Yeah.
mean that you need to shove away everything else, but it's just like, okay, what's the thing that drives you? For instance, I study visual arts. I'm going to finish my last year this September, and um at the same time, music is my number one, like it's my primary form of inspiration right now. Um, does that mean that I should not focus on my art? No, no, that does not mean that. It means that my art should be my focus for the next year, because I am finishing an education. But if I throw away my primary form of inspiration, then I'm messing up the entire idea of how I'm made to be.
Agreed.
And so I think that there is some tactical decisions that we need to make, being consistent, following the things that drive us,
Mhm.
and getting to that point that God wants to get us to. I think is so important. And even if that means that maybe your biggest inspiration is working in a supermarket, if that's the thing that drives you in order to get to your calling, don't throw that away
Yeah.
because you are a musician. There is such a big part of that.
Yeah. Well, you're really
That's
you're
anyway
really
how it
touching
is
on
for my
something.
life.
You're really touching on something. When you know who you are and why you want to do what you do, you don't hesitate to do the things you need to do. And if that's working at a supermarket to pay your bills so you can go get
Mhm.
vocal lessons. I mean, we're using art a lot, but I just want to make sure it doesn't need to be an art if you're listening to this. Um, and I would also say too, consistency. It's consistency that causes craft to be carved.
Hmm.
And really, you said something else that was brilliant, and that was talking about focus. Something a really hard lesson I had to have, because vision number one, establish vision. I would even encourage, like based on what you said, you want to do it all. Zoom out. Look at your life this way. Don't look at it this way. Look at it this way. The arc of your life. Your funeral comes. What kind of person do you want them to say that you were? And then look at what you want to do. You want to act. You want to do a podcast. You want to prioritize that and let vision come.
Hmm.
Habakkuk says it will come. When purpose is attached, vision comes. Okay. Um, and when vision comes, you can look at it and go, you know what? I'm going to focus here. That's when we get into branding. All right. That's a whole other topic. But I've learned the hard lesson of doing it wrong for a long time. If I focus on my acting and my singing, if I give that my whole weight, okay? There's a production company that I started 2 years ago, and I realized, wait a minute, This is a great idea, and I really want to do that. I'm gonna put that over here for another time. So I bought the name. I have the name. Ain't nobody gonna take my name, but I'll do that later. Okay.
Mhm.
I play saxophone. I
That's
play
great.
piano. Do some other things. I used to get hired to play those instruments. I used to get hired to model and do all that. I very seldom take that work because I am throwing my whole weight at acting and singing. I know that
Mm,
I'll go on
that's very
tour,
good.
which looks like we're doing here in the fall, and I'll play my instruments and bring all that
Mhm.
back in. There's a time and a place for everything, you know. And then look
Mhm.
at who you admire.
Mhm.
Who do you look up to? Who has a career similar, not the same? Because no one. God is the most brilliant being ever. He has never made another you, nor will he ever make another you. It's your turn with the mic, so
Mhm.
don't drop it. It's your time. You're alive. If you're alive, it
Mhm.
means God is not finished with you yet. And it's your generation with the
Mhm.
mic, so don't drop it. So if you can focus on what is the focus and lean into that, be the person as best you can that you agreed to be in the very beginning, then
Mhm.
one thing, as it finds success, will give you the permission to do all these other things. That's a hard lesson I've had to learn because for
Mm.
a while I just threw my darts at everything. You know what I mean? Um, so
Mhm.
anyway,
Wow. Well, Luke, this is incredible.
Oh
This
boy.
podcast is really making me emotional and excited about life. Yeah, I want to come over and keep talking with you about this because I love every conversation I
So
had
silly.
with you, and you just set such a good example
Mm.
of the messenger of Jesus. You know
Mhm.
how to be a messenger because
thanks,
you
man.
put in the work and you put in the faith, and I strive to not in a comparison way, but to to have that work ethic and to really work like that. And for me,
Mm.
this podcast was the first step. This podcast was the first step towards healing
Okay.
for me and going toward that vision that I have and that I'm chasing and that
Mhm.
I will not let burn out. I won't
Let's
under
go.
any circumstances. I'm so excited for the future. I'm just dating myself right now, and we're gonna go from there. Really quick, I want to honor your time because we got to wrap it up. But we like to end with a little fun question. I'm sorry, David, we forgot to talk about this before, so
I was already looking at it as
yeah.
well, trying to find one.
um, I
Bring
thought it'd be funny to just because we have a super deep conversation. We just love to end it with a really funny question.
bring
Okay, I just picked this
bring it.
one. What used to be considered trashy, but is now considered very classy? I know.
Exactly the one I picked.
What used to be considered trashy, in your opinion, but is now considered very classy?
Do you mean in my own life or like in? I can.
uh,
In general and in your life, just go for it.
Oh man. Woo! Short shorts for men are coming back. Okay.
yeah.
um,
It's weird.
no. Actually, for me, I grew up learning that riding a motorcycle, smoking, things like that, smoking a pipe, kind of an old school shtick, was a trashy thing to do. And I ride a
Mm,
motorcycle
mhm.
and smoke a pipe. So I don't think that's good at all. No.
You
Anywho,
make him look classy. It's
no.
great.
Wow,
All right, Luke.
that's amazing.
Where
Yeah,
can the
no, you're
people
right.
find you? What are you working on? Oh yeah, there it is.
Oh wow, look at that, man. The only person I know in my life who does that is my father.
Send your dad to my house.
So that says
We'll
all.
Wow.
we'll have a good time. I've got a flask. I use an old school mic. I just yeah.
Oh, oh, he would love that.
I
Yeah,
love that. I
that's
love
great.
that about you.
Thanks, man.
Mm,
So where can the people find you? What are you working on? We like to,
Oh yeah.
make sure the artist is plugged and
No, that's sweet of
given
you.
the
You can
platform.
find me just about anywhere under my full name is my handle, Lucas Charles Stafford with a K. Um, and
hmm,
right now, I'm working on a couple films are coming up later this year, which is exciting. And producing a record later this summer. So I'm
Awesome.
also
hmm.
getting ready to launch a new mission-minded community in LA called the Iron House. We'll be doing community
Yes.
events and worship
Praying for
nights
Mm,
that.
and big barbecues and master classes,
wow.
all of which anyone is welcome to come to. That starts in July. So if you find me online, you can also find that. And I also launched a life coaching business last year. That's going really well. So you can find that under Find My Purpose
Hmm,
Life Coaching, ironically enough. Uh, and if you're looking to get some help, we have a long roster of coaches. So everything from acting, singing to coaching to community, man. Look me up, reach out if you need anything. And this has been an
mm-mm,
absolute gift,
hmm.
gang. Kicking ass. I love
Yeah.
it.
And
Wow.
real quick,
Cool.
you can find me at Josh Volcano on Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah.
Yes, and you can find me on nice. You can find me on david.rdh on my Instagram and my TikTok, and you can find me on my music as well
Yes.
under my synonym David Hain.
Yes.
So please give it a
And you
listen.
can
I
find the
love that.
podcast
Um,
on Instagram at Creationship Goals on
Thank
Nice.
you.
Instagram.
Yeah, give a
And Luke,
follow.
if you know anybody that you think would be a good fit that would have as good a conversation as this was, please let us know. If there's anybody, yeah, that we would really love that and appreciate that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Anybody
Yeah.
with a good heart and a good creative mind.
Reach
Yeah,
out to me after. I got a couple
Yes.
ideas already.
cool. Thanks, man.
Oh, that's amazing. We will. This counts for everyone that is listening as well. If you have anyone that you think like, that can be a part of this story, that has a story to tell and that we can talk with and that is creative and maybe even loves Jesus, everyone is welcome as crazy as they come. Let us know through our Instagram, again on Creationship Goals. And we would love to see you all
Yeah.
back again on the next
All right.
episode. Thank you, Luke.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.